I always do it.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It's Cindy Silva here with Jeannie Zandi. Hi, Jeannie.
Hi, Cindy.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Welcome back to both of us. I've been off for quite some
Exactly.
time. I haven't posted anything in a long, long time here, but of course, it feels natural to have you as my guest since we have a continual relationship and an ongoing conversation. And today, you felt inspired to talk about ethical marketing. And I said, well, I just came off a retreat that I marketed, and I think that would be fresh and maybe I'll learn some things. So,
Yeah. And what I love about it is that it's sort of like spirituality and marketing, spirituality and marketing. Like, what? What? And I know that when I was first teaching, I knew nothing. I was invited to do this thing. I went and did it with a little group somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Wasn't going to do it ever again. And then somebody in my town came to meet with me and invited me, just said, "You've got to share this and I'll organize for you." And the sort of issues of calling versus career, the purity of offering oneself spiritually. And then when that comes together with needing to eat,
yeah.
what are all those, what are the questions in there? And how familiar we are with the crappy feeling when the beautiful, you just call it the beautiful, the spiritual, the beautiful is cheapened by being turned into a product in the marketplace where there's a feeling that, God is for sale or something. There's like a, oh. And so I think a lot of people who have come to the place in their life where their offering is a spiritual offering. Their calling is a spiritual calling, and they want to let people know about it, but they don't want to fall into the trap of muddying their offering with the kind of Gollum-esque um, forces of the lower self that might get concerned about money and these kind of things. And so I thought it would be fun to crack that open and just kind of explore in here and
Yeah.
see what each of us has come to in terms of how it actually happens. Also, how it happens that whatever you are offering, um, how do people learn about it? How do people come? How do you, can you just sit in a closet and, sit in your presence and people knock your door down, uh, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just going to pause and see if you have anything you want to say or any questions you want to ask about it or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot comes up for me. First, like just something I'd heard from one of my Qigong teachers was publishing a book and working with a publishing company, and how the publishing company wanted to change the name of the book and the title of the book, and they wanted to basically change the whole book. And the reason they wanted to change it is because they said, well, this is what will sell. And he said, like, that's not why I wrote the book. He said,
Okay, there it is right there. There it is right there.
to be genuine. And so what we see with a lot of publishing companies and books being published by them is a homogenized version of the book, which is what will sell, rather than what the artist is actually
What's
bringing
true?
forward and what's true and authentic about that channel or that instrument.
I remember when I was really suffering my butt off, being spiritually deconstructed, and I was looking for a book by anyone that could tell me what was going on. And there were a lot of books with the title or the phrase Dark Night of the Soul. But I didn't find a single book that was actually really about the Dark Night of the Soul, except St. John of the Cross, right? I laughingly, I have a manuscript that's like three-quarters done, and at some point, I was thinking about a title, And I was thinking how unappealing it would be to any publishing company to publish a book called A Wretch Like Me, right? From Amazing Grace, right? A Wretch Like Me. But anyone who's ever been down in the
Yeah.
direction of the Dark Knight goes, that's the book. It's not like Life After the Dark Knight or, manifesting your awakening. It's no, the
You'd
book.
only get the people who have been through it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, the rest
But
wouldn't get
so
it.
I love that because what this highlights is one of the fundamental conundrums or one of the fundamental ongoing challenges of the spiritual path, basically what we would call, and I think it's the path of the artist too, how to not sell out, how
Hmm.
to not sell out, how to stay true. I remember I was invited to be part of Rita Robinson's book on women spiritual teachers. Um, and I was the first interview, and I was her teacher at the time. And I got a no to include myself in the book, which was like, in a from a marketing perspective, what are you, stupid? What do you mean? You're starting a teacher. There's Neelam in there. There's, but I don't know if Byron Katie was in there. And I just got to know. And so again and again, just as spiritual humans, it's like, are we going to stay true or are we going to water things down to be accepted, to make a living, all these kind of things? And that's kind of the razor sharp edge. And for me, I have been lucky in that when I left my lucrative software development job to swan dive into the world's lap to see what would become of me, I saved up enough money for a year to basically not move from the need for money at
Mm.
all and to simply see what was alive. And by the end of that year, I had been invited to teach, and this was really happening well enough to at least eat. And I have never had to make decisions based on, my work has never become a product or a commodity. There aren't ever decisions that are made based on, um, I need money. Luckily, the being true and being true and being true has resulted in something that has such an integrity to it, and my own being, like each of us has our own integrity, that we bring, but there are forces in the unconscious that would sort of operate in such a way for us to relax our standards or whatever. And when I sort of hold space for people who are talking about their calling, I really encourage people to keep their calling and their dollars, their calling and how they eat at first very discreet. So,
Yeah.
go clean toilets for your dollars so that this thing called the calling can just stay really clean. It doesn't mean that you're not charging something, but you're not adding the pressure of the survival of the creature. You're not, uh,
Yeah. My experience is it's not going to make sense on paper,
yeah, right.
at all to
Yeah,
go in that direction. But you're going in that direction anyway because there's a trust, there's a knowing,
yeah,
and there's an experimentation, and the experiments tend to open doors that you didn't know were there, and surprise things happen that uh, continue to point you in a direction that is new and different than what you're familiar with, that sort of condition you towards trust.
defies your logic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Defies your expectations sometimes. What?
Well, yeah, I love that you said that because you said defies, and I thought you said defines, but it does. It defies and redefines your
Yeah,
logic. Your logic is now a blend of intuition and logic, not
yeah,
just logic based on what's fed to you by the culture.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And at first, for me, I have a real allergy to the false. It's like an allergy. Chew, no, can't eat that. Um, but that made was like how to redefine, because there is a need in a way to be findable, right?
Yeah.
Like what we would call marketing is like sort of like putting your availability out, what you are and what you're available for, putting it out in such a way that the people who would benefit from it could find you. And that whole process is really, again, interesting. It's like when for example, when I pick an image to go with a certain theme, when I pick a theme and I pick an image, which is a lot of what we've done so far, at least when we put something out, we make a little page with an image and a write up, and it's coming from the inside out. It's not what do people necessarily want, although I don't have a deaf ear to
Right.
the issues of the day, right? But what does that call out of me? And what photo, what description purely expresses the energy that's wanting to come through and be offered, so that it's almost already, the teaching is already coming out through the description. The teaching is already coming out through the image,
Yeah.
uh, the energy of presence or the energy of light or whatever.
Yeah. You
That
want to create a container that has a quality to transmit what it is that you're representing.
yeah, that then can be picked up by those who resonate,
Yeah.
and then they can see a time and a date and a this and a that in order to find you. So there's almost like, I think about the apostles, Jesus sending the apostles out to go stand in these town squares, and give talks, go out and give talks. And, now you can see, some of the branches of Christianity actually do that in town squares where there's people, yelling fire and brimstone or whatever they do, mimicking the apostles. But there's that, to me, that sense of like when I was asked to teach, my teacher said, here's a place that you can go to teach. There's a little clan up here in Bloomington, Indiana, I think it was. You know, I know them. You can go there. It's like the the feeling of, I don't know how to say this. Do you remember Richard Bach's book, The Reluctant Messiah? I always really loved that
Oh,
title.
Richard Bach, and that's yeah, maybe something I read a long time ago.
Yeah,
But
or he called himself that. It's like uh, the difference then between the ego leading
mhm,
and the offering being there, being recognized and being invited out,
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of. And then that mixed relationship, I had a very mixed relationship to anything called marketing. And now I have a young person who's really ethical and integrous, who is an expert at putting the word out and defining, helping to define, because it's very hard to put oneself into words, especially when you do like 90 things, right? How do you put this into words and make it available and so that you're defined and the message is clear for people to be able to find you?
yeah, yeah. I think what's happening, for me, I've always been the one hosting people, right? In conversations and workshops, I'm good at gathering people, doing the logistics, and then the teacher comes and they do their thing. And it's starting to shift for me where I'm getting the invitation, and it's so great, like just to show up and teach and get paid and not have to do all the work. And so I'm really loving that. And what I want to say mostly about that is when someone has had a good experience with you, they will share that,
Yeah.
right? And that becomes part of the marketing that I would I lean more heavily into that than worrying about getting the word out. But it's both. You know, you do have to create the container by putting the information out there with the date and time and place and what it is, so people know how, when to gather, and for what.
Yeah.
But
Ooh,
it's really, for me, the experience that gets delivered is the marketing.
that's really a great point. And the word, again, the allergy, the
That's
I just want to keep coming back to this, the purity of the truth, the purity of the truth, and the commodifying um, force of the marketplace, and the way that um, I don't know how to say it, because as soon as we add the word marketing, it's like, ooh, um, there's a funny tune to it, a funny tone to it. Uh, Here, it's like, again, cart before the horse, starting from the inside out. That there's, I used to feel into this feeling of like going to a cafe. You have like, there's like six cafes in this town, right? They all serve coffee. The coffee's about the same, whatever, different atmospheres. But which cafe has the love? Which cafe has the truth or the love, the vibration, the yum vibration, right?
mhm.
There, sometimes I will say to people who are worried about doing something unconventional for their money or whatever, it's like when you are in your truth, when you are loving what it is that you're offering, whatever it is, when it's coming from love, it's coming from truth, it's just ringing with that resonance. There is, and it sometimes takes time, right? Because people find out about you, but that there's no words on a flyer, there's no nothing that attracts like to like as that emanation of the pure note
Yeah.
that we play, as you say, the word of mouth. And this is how it happened for me. Like, I was invited to teach by a teacher who recognized me. She sent me to a little place. I was a full-time mom and a worker, and I just didn't have time for that thing. I was like, that's nice. And when this man recognized me in my town and invited to organize for me, as you say, what a lovely thing to just show up and offer. And then as people, I think I was exchanging with Adya, and somebody heard me and invited me to come to their town. And so there was this feeling of it had, and I think, in terms of synchronicity, in terms of the energy, there's this yes that the universe says. It doesn't actually say yes with thousands of people coming, but it just says yes in terms of the
Green.
experience is yummy, and the people who come, the experience is yummy, and that there's a natural um sharing. I know for me, when someone treats me well, I tell everybody about them. I have this handyman who's, he might as well be an apostle the way that he rolls in his business. And I just like tell everyone, because you feel that beautiful purity and integrity. And so the the in a way the holy operates the way the holy operates. I know you know this because you talk like this too. It's like it defies logic, it defies best practices, it defies uh, how we might market. And maybe it's in a way the key to putting the word out about everything. It's like sacred marketing basically looks like doing what you love, offering what you love, trusting God, and the energy of that emanates out. And then there's also things we can learn about different channels and places where we can um, put a dropper full of what we're offering to
Yeah.
for people to find it.
Yeah. Yeah, not sure why that's bringing this up in me, but I just want to acknowledge, what's really happening in the culture, particularly social media, is people can have the best aesthetics and website and words and everything's perfect. And then you go to the experience and it's flat. And then somebody can have a real chunky looking flyer that's like misspelled words and, and not exactly perfect. And you go and you're blown away.
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, it's like not reading a book by its cover, right? You have to really have the direct experience. And for the work that you and I do, um, we're pointing at the ineffable, which is the wordless. So there's not an easy way to find words to describe it or contain it, right? The Tao that can be named is not the Tao. So it's like we have that
You do a heck of a pointing at the moon, though.
yeah, but there is that,
Yeah. Yeah. The what you were saying about the flyer may be funky, but the experience is rich or whatever. I visited and attended so many different things in my life. And there's this story about if you go to a village, and the rumor is that there's a Sufi sheikh in the village, but you have no idea who he is or she is. Could be the cobbler, could be the town drunk, could be the mayor. You don't know, and you don't get to know until you have ears to hear and eyes to see. The same thing with, for example, the Karate Kid, and he goes and finds the guy, and the karate master makes him wash his car for a while. He doesn't know he's doing a karate move or whatever. Or my sweetheart from a long while ago, who basically knocked on the door of a particular Dene medicine man for a year before the guy would just yell at him, go away, white man, for a year. And this guy didn't have a flyer. He wasn't selling anything. And he even had, and a lot of times teachers or healers will have gates through which you have to enter in order to even get close to the teaching. And so it's quite the opposite of what we think of as traditional marketing, where it's like, tell everybody everything, show it to them. The more that come, the better, sell all the widgets, and then in some brands of spirituality, there are layers of cloaking where it's like you have to show yourself worthy, that you have eyes to see and ears to hear before you can be let close to the fire. And I think my teaching right now is kind of a combination of that, where people can find me rather easily. They hear my name, they Google me, there's the website, here's something I can go to. There's a public layer, and then there's committed programs and things that, as people are in the work or show that they're sincere or whatever, there's sort of more inner places to get to. And this is part of something that's just like so different than, you know, selling something you've manufactured, where, if somebody wants to buy it, great, like sell it to everybody. And
oh, I
spirituality.
don't know. I've read your what do you call it before entering a retreat? Your guidelines. It's like, pretty clear that, that
Yeah.
this is a well-run container with specific intentions and a protected container based on the work that you've put into the languaging that and asking for those agreements so everybody knows what they're stepping into
And
together.
that's a great way to name what I'm talking about, right? That different products, different offerings, different teachings, different have different requirements for engagement. And
Mhm.
these days, when there's so much you can just go to, so much you can purchase, so much you can watch for free on YouTube, whatever, it's like there's just lots of stuff out there. And while some people are sharing the words or the concepts or the words and presence energy, others are sharing an experience to go through, so okay, take this teaching, but now let's put a container around it with some practices,
Mhm.
some spiritual energy, and some actual direct experiencing that transforms us. Well, that actually requires a container around it. And so it's an interesting combination, you know, versus and there have been spiritual teachers. I remember the teacher Lee Loswick, who had a following in Boulder when I lived in Boulder. And somebody said, "Oh yeah, you should visit his website." So I went to, and it might still even be out there. I went to www.leeloswick.com, and it said, "If you're looking for enlightenment, go somewhere else." And that was his website, and
That would
he had a
attract me.
community, and you had to kind of be invited in by and I eventually was by someone, to hear him or see him. There weren't I mean, sometimes there was a flyer for a public talk. He had a public facing bit that he would do. But then the whole world of his community, the first thing he would ask someone who visited is not, what do you like about us or what can we do for you? It was, what can you do for us? Like, what are you bringing if you're coming as a little baby hoping to be held by mommy and daddy? Like, maybe go somewhere else. But if you're coming to contribute, to be an adult, yes, come. And so he had a real, and for some that would be intriguing. For some that would be a turnoff.
Right. And that's how he's, being selective, right?
Screening. Yeah.
Yeah. So that his marketing, or if you call it marketing, it's already doing that screening for him. And so it doesn't have to wade through. Well, I'm sure he had first long enough and then decided not this anymore.
Yeah. I don't really know the history of it. I do know that the first talk I went by him, he offended most of the people in the room in the first 5 minutes by insulting women, insulting environmentalists, insulting something else, and half the room cleared. And then he said, "Okay, the serious people are here. Now we can get going." I was like, "Okay, interesting style." And this is the thing you say about screening. Now we're bopping into another part of putting the word out. Because if you're just selling plastic widgets and you hope to sell as many as you can because you want to make money, you make a good widget so that people will like it, so more will sell, and maybe have some integrity. But this whole thing about appealing appealing to the people who are for you, appealing not just to the people who can resonate, but also to the people who will benefit, to the people who will fit into the teaching and have it benefit them, and they're a good addition, especially if you're doing some kind of contained community or this kind of thing. There's this idea that um, our marketing or our putting the word out is basically speaking to the people who are our people, not like a clique or a club, but just that, some people can benefit and some people won't benefit. Some people will be a great addition to a community, other people will be a weight on a community or whatever.
Yeah, we're not meant to serve everybody.
Exactly. And so here's a part of what we call marketing or putting the word out that is different than selling widgets, right? It's like you want to put the word out in such a way that those who are for you come and those who are not quite for you um, will find what they are for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you seem to be making it work for you. I mean, all the experiences I've had in retreats with you and courses with you, people seem to know exactly how to interact in accordance to the boundaries that have been set, and um, sharing in a way that is helpful for everybody. So, yeah, give you
It's
some kudos on.
Thank you. It's really to me it's an ongoing study, I think, for any of us. I mean, I've been at this for 20 years and I'm still learning things about what a living container, what good guidelines and what rules and how to convey them and what serves the kind of prime directive in the best way, in the most alive way, in the sweetest way, in the cleanest and clearest and truest way. It's like a ongoing study. And I think this whole idea of putting the word out
Yeah.
also, I'm curious, what are all the ways that you let people know what you're up to?
Yeah, I don't do social media just because um, I try to limit my screen time, and I know how much I could get sucked into that. So I have a mailing list, which is a newsletter I send out every Monday. So I'm very consistent. Every Monday, a message goes out and lets them know where I'm going to be when for the classes I'm offering. And then I do some writing and try to tie the content of what we're doing in the classes to something practical in the world, something we can all relate to.
That's in your newsletter?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, it's just the consistency, right? I've been doing this for over 5 years, showing up every Monday consistently with that message. So people are actually expecting it and look.
Yeah.
And so it's not very often I'm advertising anything other than my weekly classes, which are movement classes, Qigong. But, more recently I've been promoting a spring workshop with an author friend of mine. So that medium does give me an outreach for sharing things that do come up that do cost money, workshops that I offer or co-create with others. But I also have to say about you're in a different level with this than I am because you have a big community. So when you put something out, you could probably fill your event with your own community. You're still marketing to your own community, but some people don't have a community yet, right? They don't have the experience of having students on a regular basis, so they're starting from a different place. And what's happened recently that's curious to me is I did a human design reading for a gal several years ago, and after that reading, she's an acupuncturist, and she sent me lots of her clients. She thought it was one of the best things she'd ever experienced, so she referred me. So that was wonderful, right, to get that influx. And then I just found out recently she wrote a book. So I said, well, let's organize something and I'll do it all. You come and you teach. And so it's that reciprocation, of understanding that we're here for each other in that way. And then now she has connections with other people who she's telling them about me and getting invitations to come and teach. So it's, yeah, understanding that it was an intuitive thing, that um, when I heard she had written a book, like, I was like, that was an opportunity to reflect back to her the generosity she gave to me and her trust in me and sending her clients to me was,
Yeah.
there's some people that I know in the area to support her and to meet her and learn about her work.
Yeah. Yeah. That there seems to be a lot of that, that like sometimes it happens just naturally as you're talking. Sometimes it happens naturally. Sometimes there's almost like a thing in the social media world of like, have you found this? Like, I'm going to friend you. People do this with me sometimes. Like, I'm going to friend you and then I'm going to send you. I don't know you at all, but I'm going to. There's a kind of almost like a false frenziness, a false, like kind of a friended you. And now, of course, you're going to tell your whole group about my book or something like this. That's really different than forming relationship. And don't you see, like as I'm listening to you, I'm really feeling the place where you have a relationship with the people who come to your classes. You have a relationship with this woman who you're teaching with, that a lot of this, the how do we say it? It's like what we call marketing, even if we're marketing to strangers, it's the beginning of a relationship, right? And what kind of relationship do we like to be in, and
Right.
not from the I want to market, so I'm going to make a lot of false friends and I'm going to treat you like a friend, even though really what I'm after is give me your money. You can feel that when it's used in an icky way, right? But when it's used in a sincere way, this real relationship, it doesn't even have to be a deep relationship, just an honest, based in integrity, truth telling, filled with generosity, kind of like that's a beautiful, when I think about, we're sort of talking about marketing in the stereotypical, let's market our plastic stuff and sell it to the world, versus the world of how people find out about things and what's beautiful and how do we sustain our offerings, how we roll as a relator really matters, right? How we treat people and that we're not using people, right? There's a use thing that feels like sometimes is out in the spiritual marketplace that doesn't feel I thou.
Yeah. Well, I can understand why, because it's the way the culture is programmed, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, yeah, no, I'm not on social media, so I can imagine that. I know enough about it that I can imagine that there's the false, you know, friending to get what you want happening. But yeah, as you mentioned, relationship out, I love it because I just have to go to nature. Like if you look at nature, that's all about relationship. And it's the mutual appreciation of the hummingbird suckling the flower for the nectar because that flower is going to be served as is that hummingbird, right? There's a mutual appreciation. So um, I, am so appreciative when anybody signs up for anything I do. I'm just like,
I know. You do. I have basically um I was born a relator. I have, just even astrologically, I just have all these planets in the seventh house of relationship and relating, and relationship has always been a thing for me. And then, like, blessed with the opening, it's like I adore human beings. I'm an adorer now, as well as a relator, right? And it's like one of my students described it was the work, but it was also what she was discovering as her heart was opening. And she called it ridiculous amounts of love, right? The ridiculous amounts of love. And isn't it when I don't think that students realize like how much they touch our hearts or how much we are every bit as in that relationship, you know, in our own way, however we roll. But the as you said, like you feel so grateful when people come to whatever it is you do. Same here. It's just like, oh yay, oh yay. And when I have such a like etch a sketch mind that just kind of resets like an etch a sketch, that when I am at the first day of a retreat, especially lately, because after once COVID hit, I didn't do that many things in person. I open my eyes. It's like I do little retreats here, right, in Lawrence, Kansas, and I open my eyes and I'm like, what are all you people, you beautiful people doing here? It's almost like this delight, like, oh yay, oh yay, you're here. Oh yay, you're here. Oh yay. And that the context, the this is beautiful. I'm glad we're naming this because marketing from a just a purely capitalistic perspective is almost in its bad name, sort of like hoodwinking people at like a snake oil salesman or whatever. It's like I don't care about you, just give me your dollars, is the message of just flat out. And we see this in corporations and the way that they roll. There's a feeling and the companies that are able to say, with sincerity, you matter to us. Really different to do business in a cafe where you feel that I, thou respect and regard and care. And and then, in this sort of business, which is not really a business, right? This world of offering the heart for the betterment of humanity, for the grace of the holy to be shared or whatever. That relationship is so built of love, of respect, of integrity when it's working well. Like as far as I'm concerned, that's where it's at. That's really different. And so when we think about marketing in the spiritual realm, it's like, what's the quality of the relationships
Yeah.
that are being built? Is that honored? Is that put at the forefront? Is yeah. Sometimes I had someone recently who just decided my work wasn't really their cup of tea. I think I said something might have offended them. I don't know. And they went off and they had done a portion of the program and whatever. And I recently refunded them. People are sometimes surprised. I refund people. It's like I want to leave this thing beautifully. I want to bow to you. I want to honor you.
Mm.
I want what's between us to feel generous and blessing. And it seems like through pricing, through our policies, through how we relate to human beings around money and generosity, we're actually teaching through our way of relating in that way.
Mm. Yeah. Well, what comes up for me is there's definitely a predatory energy in marketing,
Yes, that's nicely named.
very hidden, but it's there. And even like algorithms on Facebook, like if
Right.
a young girl puts up a selfie and then takes it down, they record that and they see that there's probably self-esteem issues there. So that they'll market to her right now directly something that she can buy to make herself feel better.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
That's the kind of predatory forces that are at play in the hidden world of marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, now that there's so much study of human behavior,
yeah,
so much sophistication, I think it's being used politically as well. So much sophistication about human behavior and human patterns that can be tracked there. That absolutely we can be, if we are preyable upon, we can be preyed upon by those things.
yeah. So it's
And
almost
yuck.
like when you do the opposite, people don't trust it.
Yeah. They have to poke at it for a while to make sure it's real because
Right.
in this
Because,
world it's rare to find generosity and
yeah,
love.
yeah,
And not some underbelly, some ulterior motive of some sort.
right, right.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
I find for myself is that it is my community that helps me with my, you could call it marketing, but it's just the community draws whatever's next out of me. Like I
Mm.
can't see it on my own, but when I'm surrounded by my community and in touch with them through communicating with my messages, the feedback I get, right, is it's like the organism of the community is the body of my higher self speaking to
Yeah.
me.
It's evolving, isn't it? It evolves you. It evolves you because they will literally say, "Why don't you do a class about this?" Or "Can you do a 3-day thing?" Or like you mean like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the movement of the community is really something I'm tuned into, and what they really respond to and enjoy, and what lights them up. And that's really showing me the direction that things are going, where the chi is going, where the energy is expanding. And then I can put my efforts in that direction and create a structure and a container for more like that and add in something new and different to see, how that mixes and if that brings something new up. So I really would never be able to do anything without the community, or because that they're my guide in a way. They don't even not know it, but
This is another thing about relationship that I often think about is you have a healthy feedback loop. And
mhm,
in a relationship, when we can actually give feedback and it lands and the relationship evolves based on both sides sort of sharing, sharing just what's real.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I
Lovely.
feel like it's yeah, important to acknowledge that there is a communication not just between me and the individuals, but between me, the individual, and that mystical third, if you will, or that transcendent function of the community that is, the
Yeah.
yeah, the driving force of the whole thing, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just reflecting as you were speaking just about, I don't know, just the collective and the all the ways, just all the ways, how do I say this? Like here, um, there's a community of people who come to your class, and then there's a community of people who are in relation to the people who come to your class. They may never come to your class, but they hear that their partner or their friend has been to your class or whatever. And that also, like when I teach about our impact on the commons, our impact not only in the relationships that we care about, but how we roll sends virtue or not out and uh, can have such a big impact. Even if the people don't come for what you're offering, it's like this broadcast system. What are we broadcasting? And, uh, when I'm thinking about this is really, I'm connecting as we're speaking, this whole thing about relationship and community and why I've been somewhat allergic to certain sorts of marketing. Because for me, the precision of my language, that a write up about an event I'm doing, that every word actually, it's not a fancy word, it's not a pretty word, it's not a big conceptual, it's that that word has been chosen based on my experience. It's so close to the ground, it's so real. And the integrity of that relationship that I only speak what I know. Um, it, it so matters here, the integrity with which, not just the integrity of what I'm teaching in the container, but that the container, that the words that go out, everything, it stretches out to the larger community, either as light or as something else. If someone
Mhm.
uh, cheats me, like recently, my sweetie's been trying to get a used washing machine on Facebook. And he's run into people who are basically saying things are working and he gets them and they don't work. And and the what goes out in a community with your name when
Right.
you've cheated someone. And not only that comes back to you in terms of reputation, but that affects the commons. Like when you're virtuous, it gives people hope, it gives people trust, it builds the links in our web. And when we are shitty, when we're into the short term or we are run by selfish motivations, it actually impacts the fabric of the commons. And so uh, our so-called customers, when we are a virtuous human being seeking to roll in a virtuous way, it's like our customers are the cosmos. Our relationship to the whole actually matters.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think both of us are in the business of empowering other people. So we're not looking for followers, although it may look that way when we're putting something out there to gather people together, but it's in an effort to disseminate information that puts the power back in their hands. And so when you continue to demonstrate that, um, and live it, you are the walking advertisement, right?
Yeah. 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 This is a fun talk because some of the things that are coming forward. I mean, this is what I love about talking to you, especially when we have a new, like we've never talked about this before. I've never talked about this much. I mean, as I have this young person helping me with kind of defining, I'm hard to define in terms of all the pieces of work I do. It's like the gender work, the embodiment work, the dark night work. It's like, how do you put this into words in a way that lands with the people who it's for or whatever? But as we've been working together, there's like this tuning the usefulness of something like an education in branding, which she has, right? She has this expertise in this thing called branding, which is a fancy way of saying, who are you and how do we say it so people know who you are and what you have to offer? Super useful. Um, and this is just a big learning curve for me because I think sometimes as spiritual purists, we can shoot ourselves in the foot avoiding things because they seem to be tarnished out there in the world and not realize that they can actually be done with integrity. And so at this point, um, I've had a little presence on YouTube for a while, and there may be more. I have a little presence on Facebook. It's one of the ways that we put the word out, but it doesn't work very well because Facebook will only do that if you pay them a lot of money. Whereas it used to be, I have like 2,000 people in my friends of Jeannie Zandi Facebook group, but like maybe 20 of them see my posts, kind of thing. Um, and it's always an interesting, um, like which channels. And here, Facebook is a business. And while Facebook may have started out with this, let's give everybody a way to be in community. I mean, it's an amazing network builder, isn't it? Because my my family, my extended family, the town in Italy where my grandfather was born, I ended up finding his brother's daughter on there. And, and so the connections to people I went to elementary school with, it's so connective. It makes connection, a certain kind of connection anyway. It makes staying in touch with people so easy. And yet, in the name of that beautiful thing, which is beautiful, and I have used it beautifully myself, I'm not, the marketing thing doesn't really, it's like whatever, talk to the hand, I don't care. But it is such a beautiful, I've admired it for a long time, the idea of it and the implementation of it as a way to connect people. And it's breaks my heart that vehicle that I used and actually continue to use until we find another option for our groups has this weird underbelly and this whole like marketing piece. It's sad because it's what a brilliant tool to bring human beings together to find each other. And I haven't been part of the political ranting aspect of Facebook. I haven't been part of the marketing aspect of Facebook. I stay very much in my groups and my family and things like this. But the suddenly the question becomes, okay, we're using for something that is not based at all on taking advantage of people. We have this platform that is taking advantage of people
Yeah, yeah,
in the practices that you're speaking of and these kind of things. And I know a lot of other things are cropping up um, to replace it. And we'll see if something takes over in such a way that you can bet all your buddies are on there versus having to go through 90 different channels. But just in terms of the channels, Instagram. we're on there like this much. TikTok, not at all. And the whole Twitter X thing, I was on there for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Just like here's this thing, here, bugle God's love out into the world. Here's a quote that might make your day better. That it's there, these channels are beautiful in terms of benefiting human beings if you do have a way with words, or there is a bit of video that's instructive that can help people to be kinder to themselves and each other. It's so great. And I'm just mentioning these sort of channels because when I first started teaching, first of all, yeah, the web was definitely there. Um, I remember my first website. It was like really bad. Um, but when I first started teaching, when I was first inviting, there was no way to find me. There was no nothing. There was just, oh, Jeannie Zandi. I heard, yeah, you got her phone number. Okay, let's email her, see if she wants to come. And then there were flyers, right? That's how people sent out emails, and then they hung up flyers, and that was like, and then it grew into, okay, do you have a website so people can find out a little bit about you? And are there a little bit of teachings on there? And now you have a calendar. And I'm just speaking these things for someone who may have an offering and be wondering at, like, what do I do? Where do I start? And here it was that. It was the simple website. It was the email address that, MailChimp or whatever it was back then. And letting people know, letting people sign up to know where you'd be next,
Yeah.
keep a calendar, that kind of thing. And then with social media blowing up with all these ways, it can be very overwhelming. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I have MailChimp and that's what I do. And I have an Instagram and I put one thing on there and I realized I wasn't going to keep up with it.
that's the thing, right? It's work.
Somebody stole my Facebook account, hacked it, so I just let that go. And I realized like I'm busy enough. Like, why do I want to jump on all these social media things to get more people when I have enough people to serve? I'm happy with the number of people I'm serving it. So who in me would want, like, what would be making that choice to do it? Someone
Yeah.
that just wants to keep up with the Joneses or hustle more. But
Yeah.
no.
And that's a very good question. For each human being who has an offering, it's like, who's my audience? What do I love to do? I remember one teacher. There were two teachers talking. I heard this from the two teachers. One who was a very big teacher, had lots of people coming, and one teacher who had maybe 20 people coming. And the smaller teacher said to the larger teacher, "Wow, to do this with 400." And the larger teacher said, "Oh, wow, to do this with 20," because he remembered the days
Right.
had just 20. And it really is, when you think about selling widgets and you think about capitalism, the whole idea is more is better, more is better, more is better. But when you think about what you're for and what you love and how you love to do it, you find what it is. And I was just telling this to someone about my learning process, which I think applies here, which is it's good to do something really solidly, really well, have a handle on it before you add another bell and whistle to it.
Mhm.
And then to deliberate about the bell or the whistle, as you said, what's the motivation here? Is this because everyone's doing it? Or is this actually something that I'm called to add to whatever my offering is? And it's good to stay conservative so that you don't go out there willy-nilly with all this, starting, stopping, and just like, okay, I
Yeah.
found my niche, I found my thing, this works for me, yay. And
Yeah.
then if something else wants to be added, it can be added.
Yeah. And if I was 30 years old, it'd be different, but I'm not. And I'm looking at
Not
like
either, sweetheart.
down, not building up, right? I mean, not like I'm, on my way out anytime soon, but I'm certainly not looking to um, extend extra energy just for the sake of it. Like it has to be very um, specifically aligned
Yeah.
what's here that is I don't know if I want to use the word unique, but the specialization of my interest and attraction to things in the world aligned with my skills and talents. Like I did this little experiment with my clients, my human design clients, and did some readings and looked at things a little bit differently because I was inspired to by another teacher. And so I called people into the experiment and did it. And I came up with this. I don't know if I came up with it, but I recognized a formula in that we're all here with a specific um, angle, like we all have a unique interest and attraction in the world that we can't explain where that comes from or why. Like, why does a dentist want to be a dentist?
Seriously, sometimes I think about some of the things people do, and I'm like, I can't even imagine being that person wanting to do that thing.
Yeah, but they do. So use the example of a dentist. The dentist is interested in dentistry, so they go into the field of dentistry and they increase their awareness about dentistry. And then the next thing is they gather the tools that go with that awareness, and then they can provide a function in society called dentistry, a function I need, but I can't provide myself.
Yeah.
So we're each, in my point of view and what I've been witnessing through looking at these charts and talking with people, we're each attracted into directions based on what's inside of us that wants to give. And as we follow that, we collect things like systems, language, tools,
Capacities, yeah.
capacities, yeah, skills.
And what's so funny is that I can see, and I've heard people say this, other people say this, that when they look back at their life, they see that all the things I did in my life were preparing me for this without me knowing it,
Yeah,
because I was following the things that were alive to me. And then those, from Aikido sword, which I offer sometimes at retreats, to authentic movement, just my whole interest in the psyche and training there. And
yeah,
there's so much that just, if someone had given me like this sort of like college degree and spiritual teacher, you know what I mean? It wouldn't have at all been as tailored to the unique being I am. And a lot of times people don't realize that they already are a unique offering based on what they've done in their lives. And we can overlook that because it doesn't have a certain credential or something.
yeah. It's a function in society, and the reason I where I came to that was Stephen Jenkinson. You know him? He wrote the book called Die Wise. He's a palliative care person. Anyway, he was talking about elderhood, and he said, there's a quote that says, "White hair does not make the elder." He didn't say that, but that's a quote. But basically, he was saying the same thing, like um, elderhood is not something you come to. Elderhood is a function of society, which is about sharing wisdom, right? And so I started to look at a lot of things like being a mother as a function in society, right? It is a role and a very personal role, but also it's a function in society.
Yeah.
And so I could see that everybody has a function in society, no matter what they're doing. And then back it up, there's an awareness that's unique to that person. And then there's all their personal experience and all the tools and skills they've gathered that they combine together to provide that function. And
Yep.
it simplified it for me, because um, when we know what that any one of those pieces of the formula is, we can get a thumb on the red thread that runs through our life.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I often think that spiritual teaching is not who I am. It's a function. It's a function. It's a role.
Right.
Who I am dances within that form. Um, it's like Byron Katie once said, like, here I am, formless awareness, and then my daughter yells mom, and then I take the form of mom for a little while and perform that function. And then when she's done needing me to be mom, I'm back as formless awareness again, which is like really dear to watch one's being be called out by life and enter into that function for sure. And for those of us who are being called to unconventional offerings, like this thing that I do it very uniquely. And when I was invited to teach by an invited teacher, m- how I did it looked a lot like how she did it, and how other people did it until it evolved into my own thing. But it can be challenging, talking back to marketing, putting the word out, to put words on whatever it is we are so that some people, I think most people who are involved with me, they just resonate. It's below the words. They just feel what it is I'm up to. And they're like, and that's how I've moved through my life.
Yeah.
If there's three teachers offering three things, I look into what's resonating in my body. Body, soul goes, yum, yum, food. And,
Remember
and,
when,
and yet at the same time, to put words, it used to be a business card, right? Do people have business cards anymore? I'm not sure. Now it's like the website, the place where someone can find you has words. It has the URL, it has what you call yourself. And that whole thing, I think, is a challenge in terms of putting the word out, finding our own languaging. And I just want to say what I advise people to do who are clueless about. They're like, I do this thing, I don't even know what it is. I just get in the room and I do the thing. And I'll say, you know, have someone who loves you, who you feel deeply accepted by, who gets it. Just record yourself talking about what it is that you do, what it is that you do and how you do it. Just and let that be recorded, maybe get it transcribed, and you may find the language that you can use. I know in a an exchange with one of my teachers, she was holding space for me, and she said, "Well, what you do, I don't even know if we were talking about what do I do?" But she just very casually said, "You teach people to live as love." And I was like, Bing. And
uh,
so my organization was called Living, is still called Living as Love. Some people resonate with that, some people don't. But those words rung the bell of my heart about the essence of what this is. And then because wild child or revolutionary of the heart aren't exactly phrases that people know, what does that mean? I use the phrase spiritual teacher, but I use it almost like with a grin because there's so many kinds of spiritual teachers.
yeah.
And, you know, I'm teaching about spirit. I am teaching. So I guess I get to call myself that. There's a
And
real love of original words, but it does help to find the words.
that's what people are looking for. I think what has helped me and my clients sometimes identify what it is we're actually doing and have to offer is to ask other people what their experience of
Oh,
receiving.
very nice. Yeah. To get words from other people.
Yeah, what, like, get a few testimonials and read them and see what's the common theme in what everyone's saying, you know. And for me, it was, bringing big concepts into practical terms is a thing that kept coming back
Oh, very nice.
for me. And so it's like, okay, yeah, I can see that in my chart. I can see how that is a part of the function of what gets done here. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, so those are some good ways, some good pointers, I think, to help people stay on track with what's true. And um, yeah, as we navigate getting our function out in available in the world to people who are aligned with it. And it's a trial.
How you're coming into just a natural summary. I think we're near time, aren't we?
I'm feeling we are. I'm gonna look. Yeah, yeah. So it's just, yeah. I don't know what else I was going to say. There's something at the tail end there, but
Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. What,
Easy come, easy go. I don't have anything else to say. I just love covering topics with you. We go all over the place to unexpected places, and um, hopefully, when I thought about talking about this, I'm just thinking about people who, there isn't a school for people who are called to do unconventional, spiritually based stuff. I mean, you could go to coaching school, I guess, but it's largely a road that is very individual, often because our offerings are so individual. We can get experience here, experience there, find a mentor here, but it just can help to have people who are performing functions like the functions that we perform talk about different ways, because you and I have different things we do, different ways we offer, different ways we put the word out, just to put some things on the menu that people can chew on and think about as they bring their hearts forward.
yeah.
The world can use hearts coming forward. If you got a heart and it wants to come forward, don't wait.
And I don't think we're ever going to land on it and be done because everything is changing and shifting and adapting. And that's what, we're made to adapt. And the markets and what people are expecting is changing. And so we have to just stay open to both that inner, what do you call it? The evolutionary pulse that's moving through us that is unique to us and our instrument and what wants to be given. And then also the projection field of what people are getting from others and expecting from you, and how do you navigate all of that? It's trial and error. You get it right and then you get a few wrong and you learn from that and you start over. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I
human.
wish I wish I had I wish I could show a 5-minute movie of just like when you've been at something like I've been at this for 21 years or whatever. It's like, oh, remembering back to the very first steps, and stuff. It'd be just fun to be able to almost like when you watch a time lapse uh,
Yeah,
of a flower blooming, time lapse of that would be fun to
sure,
show.
it would be easy to do. Just throw it all into AI and say, make a video of my career.
There you go.
And just go online and find everything and put it in a chronological date and do something amazing and
Maybe next life. Thank you, dear.
do
Thank you.
your helper can help you. It was a pleasure, Jeannie. And thank you all for listening. Whoever is listening, I hope it's helpful. And yeah,
Thanks.
all right. Bye for now.